as I read here, you're hearing in the book of Exodus, where it is the exiting of the Hebrew slaves from slavery to freedom. When God told Moses to go to Pharaoh, the hard task over his chosen people, he told Moses to tell Pharaoh to let his people go. But he didn't pause there. He said, let them go so that they may serve me. The very divine purpose for God freeing any people is that they may be in the position of service. The average church teaches the average believer that when you are born again, it is for you to sit on your seat or do nothing. But when you understand that God has called us, watch this now, in discipleship to be the light of the world. He called us in discipleship to be the salt of the earth. He called us, come on somebody, to make a difference in a world that is full of darkness. God said, I've chosen you that you may serve me. I believe that the average believer is going through unnecessary warfare. It's because they have not tapped in the duties that has been prescribed for them to do. But here at Real Joy Life Family Fellowship, I want again to intertwine and to entertain this divine purpose. Why did God save me? The reason why God saved you and I is that we may serve Him. Can I get an event, somebody? Yeah. See, when we forget that we are called to serve, we then change our focus from what does God want us to do to what we want to do. In other words, when we don't realize that God saved us to serve Him, we flip the script in having us to believe that God saved us that He may serve us. That God said, no, I saved you that you may serve me. Let's go back to the children of Israel, and all of us are in common ground, because the children of Israel was in a position where they had no strength, they had no power, they had no say-so over their own lives. They were under a curse. They were in the place of limitation. They in a place where they were bound, and they could not have, watch now, the freedom and the liberty to live as human. But then God sent a man named Moses and told Moses, go and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. I gotta pause there for a minute. God made a stand for His people. You gotta remember before you leave up out of here this evening. You got to remember before you turn off the CD. You got to remember before you click off the DVD that God chose you. And when God chose you, He's making a stand for you. He's telling the devil to let you go. He's telling the devil to, you got to free my child. You got to free my chosen people. But He continued to say that they may serve me. So let's deal with that, because we are on common ground. Before we met Jesus, we were just like the Hebrew slaves. When we met Jesus, we were under a terrible taskmaster. Before we met Jesus, we were in situations where we could not handle. Before we met Jesus, we were on a road to self-destruction. Before we met Jesus, we were in a place of limitations. Before we met Jesus, we were bound, if the truth be told, in this worldly system. But after we met Jesus, He made a stand for us and said, let my people go. And we're in a place of liberty. I need some folk who've been freed to stand to your feet and give God some praise up in here, up in here. Because we must understand the purpose of God saving you and I. It's not again that we may sit idle, but there is a divine purpose for us to accomplish. And the world and the reason for the church, not as a geographical place. The purpose for the church, not for a physical building, but the purpose of the church being the person who's been born again and saved and been washed by the blood of the Lamb, is to serve God. So as I gather this morning, I need you to understand that there is a divine purpose. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, you were saved